Good morning, everyone. I like this jam, I have to say. Welcome to the show. Happy Thursday, wherever you are. It doesn't matter what time zone or what you have in hand for drinks. Cheers to Bruno and to Liz. See, Starbucks and tea. Actually, Bruno, where's the wine? Is it too early?
Well, you just said drinks. Show your favorite drink, and that's my favorite drink. Wine. Chardonnay, to be exact.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't mean I drink it all day. It's just sometimes.
So that's the disclaimer. All right. So, so on today's episode, if this is your first time joining us, we're actually on webisode 6, 7. When do we lose count?
Oh no, I think we're 6 now. 6.
We're 6. But anybody that's chiming in, listening in, tell us if this is your first time with us or have you been with us since the very beginning. And basically, most of our conversations are like on the fly, but they're relevant because the topic today is about the R word that everybody is talking about and fearing, and maybe that's what's starting day drinking, maybe, which is the recession. And I know that we are all sort of trying either. You have event profs that actually are trying to bury it and then just put it like behind them and saying, oh, won't deal until it happens. That's what we did with the Corona coaster. Or you have those that are just like binging on all the news that they can on the interwebs and then just maybe drinking themselves silly. I don't know. So we are putting our minds together as well as with the geniuses that are going to be joining us in the audience. And Sean, good morning to you. Have been here since the beginning, said when I missed due to schedule. I love you so much. And I actually remember the first time I met you. So we're going to talk about the recession, not in a negative way. We are going to do this we should talk about resuscitation for business. Like, how do we make people's businesses and personalities and mental capacities, if you will, resilient to whatever happens? Liz, give us some ideas. Like, how are we going to deal with this so that we're dealing with it like forward thinkers, not waiting for it to happen and being reactive?
Oh, you have to start with me. You asked me like the hardest question.
You have more Starbucks in you than me, so you're good.
I do have coffee, but I don't know if that helps me with this situation.
And little boys, so there you go.
Yes. Oh, see, as soon as you went to me, when I start.
Hey, they've got something to say.
Yes. So I think part of it is, I guess the first thing I think about when it comes to being prepared for a recession is just not being frugal, I guess is one way to think about it, but as a lifestyle, so like I really operate out of like lean startup mentality. That book changed my whole business when I read that many years ago. And I think always operating in a startup like mode is really important. Flexibility, from a financial standpoint, why go over the top if you don't need to, just because the money's there. And then when the money's not there, you don't have as much scaling back and loss that you would typically have. I know sometimes, like one time we bid on a project and then we ended up coming in $40,000 less than our competitor. And it was because, and the person told me, to be honest, it looks like you are not as like professional or something because you're way under this other company. And it turned out that they were like they built in all these additional things like gobos everywhere and logos all over the place. And it was just stuff that I said at the end of the day, if you compare the two, what I'm talking about is achieving your goals. And what they're talking about is like flashy. And you're more than welcome to spend money. And I can help you spend money on all that stuff if you want. But I'm just kind of proposing what I think is needed. And then you can go as crazy as you want from there. Right. But I think that general mentality and being open to change. I think those are two big things that help people be, I guess, recession proof. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it totally does. It's like taking a look at being practical. It's almost like, and this is one of our best characteristics and superpowers, is that we should always be worst case scenario planners. So you have a plan A, you have a plan ZZ, all the way through. And so, like, if you are operating that way as a business, first and foremost, then yes, you're being practical. You're setting what needs to happen from a budget perspective, from a project perspective, as a plan A. And the gobos and the logos and the champagne fountains and so forth, that can be a plan J. If it permits, like if the times permit. Bruno, what about from an event perspective? Like right now, you've seen it when you went to CEX, for example, and then other shows, especially those that, all of a sudden the budget gets pulled from them, or the registrations are not at the revenue like level that it was supposed to be at. So like how do we get through that, especially if people are talking about like, pulling back, not spending, that R word yet again?
Yeah, I have the same sort of philosophy, whether you're talking about an event professional, you're talking about an event, or you're talking about, for example, a company, event technology, for example. I think the days of being really good at one thing are over. You have to be good at a couple of things. So for an event professional, you have to, for me during the recession, I just fell back on writing, freelance writing. But, I can also do strategy. I can also do logistics if I have to. Those three things are kind of like, I've honed those skills all my whole career. If I'm an event, I'd be thinking about, okay, we have to meet our customers where they are. Are they wanting to be there in person? Will they pay to be in person? Will they, do what it takes to actually come to an in-person event? Or is virtual good enough for right now? Be prepared for that. Or maybe it's just, some kind of year-round community configuration. Pick at least sort of three of those form factors and just make sure you're in those spaces, and you could, in a pinch, pivot, sorry, Dahlia, to any of those things. And for a company, same thing. You've got to be good you have to have products that could serve customers in in-person spaces and virtual spaces, in, maybe the metaverse is the third space. But I think you have to be flexible more than anything to go where the opportunities are and not just wait for them to come to you anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rachel, you're late, so you owe all of us coffee, just saying. But I agree with what you're saying. I also think that we have come to a spot where in time where the suppliers, they're going to be hurting the most. And we know this, as well as those that are, either meeting managers, planners, or independent planners, that transparency is needed more than ever right now. So, for example, I am not going to mention names, but there are companies, especially on the tech side, that are going to be doing a lot of layoffs because they think that the recession's coming. So if that's going to happen, I would encourage to have more transparency through like client communications, to set the expectations now. What is it going to mean to them from a customer service perspective, operations? It's almost like if this, then this will happen. And that there should be backup plans, or there needs to be some sort of like clear, roadmap and plan for the client to take on, because they're having issues on their side. So it doesn't help at all when all of a sudden their suppliers or their vendors or their venue all of a sudden doesn't have the staff, doesn't have the capabilities, doesn't have the backup. I think we should be more transparent now than ever, and that's one lesson I wish that everybody would have learned through the Corona coaster, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say transparent, though, Dahlia, do you mean that they should just lay it out right when you're asking them to provide services? Like, I can't do this, but I can do that. I have staffing for this, but not for that. It's
also,
just,
yeah.
I love that. I love that idea in theory. I just wonder if, the market will bear that. Because even right now, going to hotels or, whatever types of, facilities, vendors, caterers, they're doing that. They're saying, I can do this, but I can't do that. And it's not making the customers very happy.
No, but like I'll tell you right now, I'm at a conference in Philadelphia at a downtown hotel, at Logan Hotel. It's a beautiful property, but it should have been like for the attendees, for them to know when the coffee shop is going to close in the lobby. That's important. Or the drinks and the bar when it's going to close, the kitchen when it's going to close, for example. The thing that I worry about the most is when, especially the tech companies, because I don't want them getting always like a bad rep, if you will, that their clients and their partners find out that they've laid people off or they've got bought in the media versus them first.
Yeah.
And there are still companies that do that. I don't think that's right.
Yeah. You mean announcing they're going to cut 25% of their workforce and then you happen to be one.
Yeah. So because it is a huge plan, like B and C and D on the organizer side, and I just think, if we're gonna get through this next couple of years, I think the transparency, finally, we have this is our genius, ladies and gentlemen. Hi. And I think for the next couple of years, it's going to be a little bit challenging, maybe in different ways than it has been in the last couple of years. You feel it right now. Every single week, I get, emails of this person's no longer here, or we are not doing this anymore because we don't know what we're doing. Are you guys getting the same? Like Liz, are you getting that as well?
Yeah, it's almost like painful to plan an event right now because there's just, we had like a tasting with a client and then we're like, okay, this is great. We'd love to move forward. Can we have an official proposal? Silence. Email, phone call to the boss, phone call to somebody else. We're like, somebody get back to us. We have someone who wants to buy right now. And then that person's no longer there. So then you start all over again. And then the clients are like, hello, we need to book a venue, and that's across everything. And I actually had a call this week with someone who needs help next week with an event and I'm not available. So I said, I'll do a little outreach. So I called a partner and I said, hey, so this is a client that we're talking with for November. And before I could say anything, he's like, wait, this is not a client who has an emergency and needs someone next week. And I was like, oh, no, it is. It's just, we're also talking in November. It's like everything. I guess it's because of staffing already. I mean, the idea that people are laying off more people is shocking to me. Like how? Yeah. There's not enough people working already.
So Joe, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if the staffing issues are just sort of on the hospitality side, or if, for example, trade show organizers are laying off, show managers and people like that. Is that happening, or is it just really on the hospitality area? I certainly on LinkedIn don't see as many open for work little circles, so that's good. I see more, maybe less now than a month ago, the open to hire in, that space. But is it all across the board, or is it just hospitality jobs? I'm wondering.
I think it's across the board. I
Mhm.
definitely think when you say hospitality, we feel that the most because that's the sector we depend on the most.
Yeah.
But I think that it is across the board. I also think that um, the burnout that people are going through, as well as the summer coming up, that people are going to take a break. And, that is going to lend itself to more of a domino effect of, staff, um, lack of staff, lack of brain width, slowing down of your plans, your projects, and it will turn into a shit show because everybody is trying to do a comeback, as they say, in the fall.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
guess what? Everybody on the supplier side that I speak to, they are not going to be able to throttle the business that's coming in. And I believe that they are afraid to say no. And it's going to be because imagine if they don't say no. Imagine if they keep on taking the business because they want to make up for the last couple of years.
Mhm.
And the staff that they have is going to get burnt out even more. And if they all of a sudden quit right before the fall season, then what?
So here's one thing I was wondering too when you brought up this topic. It's really about it's a decision for companies, for example. Do they invest in something? Do they invest in marketing? Do they invest in talent? Do they spend their money on something that's going to get them through a recessionary period? Or do they immediately cut bait? Lay off as many people as you can, conserve cash, get even more frugal. I mean, what's the right strategy, do you guys think?
Liz,
I think some companies don't have a choice but to cut back because they're already way too bloated. And so then when it comes to like the money is not necessarily going to be there, they don't have a choice. And this is hard for a lot of companies because they just went through COVID. They laid everybody off. Now they're so excited to bring everybody back. They start doing that, then the money's not there the way they thought, or quite frankly, they just can't keep up. I was talking to a supplier this week who's like, I can't say no to the business. We're so grateful to be so busy, but I can't do another possible thing. And they're working, with their own supply shortages and staffing shortages. But so I think it sounds nice to say you should invest in a particular thing. But I think a lot of companies really just don't have a choice. They're so bloated.
Mhm.
so we have
Yeah,
we
it
have
almost
really
sounds,
cool comments here as well that I just wanted
yeah.
to make sure that we address because so Joe, really wondering if a coming recession and high travel costs should solidify a long-term shift to digital. Riley says yes. 2 more years, and they may not have the cash or staff to go back to in person. I think you're spot on. And I think those that are in the weeds right now are the associations and organizers that said, hey, live is back, digital is dead. And I'm like, how the hell can you say that? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, you have learned nothing in the last 2 years if you're saying that. Kenji, so great to see you here. I
Yeah,
see hospitality as a bigger drop off than event staff. And I totally agree with you. Brings me back to one of Bruno's comments when she came back from CEX saying, imagine you go to a meeting and you go with your sleeping bag and a brown lunchbox and coffee in hand. I'm like, dang, that sounds like a party to me. But it could be reality.
When you think about some events and really kind of all the unnecessary stuff, like I really never understood carpeting. Like I suppose if you're standing all day, you need to have carpeting, but can't we just solve that problem with shoes? I mean, carpeting just seems like a luxury, and it's not the most sustainable thing to do in, events. So
Yeah.
could we do without carpeting and save a ton of money and be sustainable and just not bitch about it? Like Event Tech Live and some tech events, they're kind of, more, I don't want to say they're just scrappy. They're scrappier looking. There's not carpet. There's, just, it's just a rawer look. And maybe that works for technology. It works for me, but there just maybe are some things we can really do without to lower the expectations, to make it, events in general just more viable financially, and just, quit whining about, you didn't have this color scheme or this, carpeting stuff and entryways and all that stuff.
So there was also another, I think you're absolutely right, but you said a huge word here, Bruno, is setting the expectations. There was one comment here about someone saw on site that Facebook user, I wonder if it's Ray Baum, was recently on site and deficiencies were addressed as we're short staffed. However, the client's pricing did not reflect the diminished capacity to perform, and it was frustrating. So Liz, I'm going to ask you to set expectations for everybody that's on site when they're short staffed, et cetera. What are the top 3 things you need to either say or like market, or what can you do to set those expectations so that you don't get like the angry birds, if you will?
Well, I think, it is about communicating transparency, to your point, being able to say upfront, this is what we can do, this is what we can't. I think that I agree with Michelle. People don't want to hear that, but planners especially need to know that, regardless of whether it's something that makes us happy or not. The other part is that they don't want to adjust their pricing. They're not trying to lose money. They just, so I think openness to hiring other staff and like collaboration is a big key. If you cannot do something, how could you deliver on what you're missing by collaborating with other people? I think it's not an okay excuse to say we're just short staffed, so we can't do it. Well, then figure out a way to do it. And there are lots of collaborations for venues or for suppliers that could make sense. So I think that's another important thing. And then I think you do have to consider pricing changes and things if the first 2 things can't be addressed. If you can't find someone to help, then there has to be some kind of price cut for that, because then the planner should be able to go out and find some other solutions on their own. It's not, most of these things that people are saying like, oh, sorry, we can't do it, we're short staffed. They're important things. It's not like it doesn't matter. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Don't, yeah.
Yeah. I've also been thinking a lot about, on the hospitality side or wherever it's going, the reasons why we're short staffed. I mean, there could be a number of reasons. So either the positions don't pay well. We know that, working in catering or working behind a front desk in a hotel or cleaning rooms, it just doesn't pay well. And maybe that's not sustainable. Maybe people just don't like the job. It's an icky job. It's stressful. It's especially now, it's super stressful, or it's, it's like, it's just not what you want to do in life, I guess. It's not long-term goal oriented. So can we change any of those things?
Yeah.
Without increasing the cost of, putting on a meeting even more?
I think it lends itself a lot with the onboarding, as well as getting the staff like mentally ready for crap to happen. Because if you get them mentally ready for crap to happen, or angry people, or things that go wrong, the things that go right and then for everybody to, be at a certain level of satisfaction or happiness is then okay. But I definitely think there is a lack of in the onboarding when it comes to how do you get people emotionally ready? How do you help them with like mental exercises that can just get them through the day? That, they're short staffed, so therefore the only 3 people that are like, taking care of a banquet for 200 people are running around and there's no appreciation. And so that is something. The other thing that pisses me off is the amount of times, and I don't know if this is conditioning, the amount of times that staff are apologizing for shit that they have nothing to do with.
Yeah.
And I keep telling everybody, don't apologize. This is not you. You are doing the best you can. When we were in IMAX Vegas last year, and we were at Caesar's hotel, one barista at the Starbucks in the lobby. With all of us, have you seen us at a show? We're like relentless without caffeine. Like one barista, and all she did from 5 a.m. in the morning was apologize, and she was alone. I'm like, honey, this is the first thing I do. I taught my kids this. You're going to a restaurant, you're going anywhere, you learn the person's name, you say thank you, and you say please, and that you appreciate them always and forever, and you tell them do not apologize. That's one thing we need to be better at as attendees, no matter what, that we should be more empathetic, more compassionate. I mean, everybody's doing the best they can right now. And I think that is something I would like to see that on signage more than, oh, here's another QR code to download another yet collateral piece. Say thank you and please to the people that are around you. And I think that will help.
At pre-con meetings, you have all the partners assembled in a room. What if one of the partners was, a mental health wellness person or a mediator or someone that could set expectations and also be available during the event when, maybe suppliers and planners come to blows, or attendees and planners are duking it out, or, all of these, the 3-way sort of thing. Maybe there should just be more attention paid to anticipating that at some point during this event, we're going to be probably really angry. And let's just be honest. So what are we going to do? How are we going to solve problems? How are we going to manage conflict? What are the communication lines that are open? And put that person in the pre-con.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Liz, have you ever seen that on a sign? Can we start a trend here?
I love the idea. Definitely never seen that anywhere. But I think, our relationships are so important. The partnerships we always talk about, that's what gets us through any event. And so I love these ideas about being transparent, working together, supporting each other. Gratitude goes a long way.
Yeah, it totally does. And I actually think it like diffuses the bombs before they start. I saw on LinkedIn last week that Emerald Expositions started weekly mindfulness sessions for their staff. And I think that's a great idea. I don't know if anybody else is doing it. I applaud you if you are. Please share if you are. And if you're not, embrace it somehow. Where it is, hi Karen from New York. So I think that, setting the expectations in the sense of we're going through something right now. Here are the services you can expect. We're doing the best we can. So the transparency and communication, but also the gratitude and some kind of expectations of like, we know that you personally are going through something, whether it's internally in a company, or whether it's the event team, like Bruno, like what you were saying, And I don't mean holding hands and singing Kumbaya or something like that. Like, we're going to have to do something a little bit better. And the signage idea, I'm actually kind of obsessed with the signage idea right now. So that's my thing.
Yeah, I like when I see signs that say, hey, everybody's struggling or everyone's having a bad day, be nice to our staff, things like that. I just think that's just one approach. We have to go deeper now because it's just, for a lot of people in our industry, especially, it's not getting better.
No.
It's just not. Either it's pent up anguish from what we've been through and we haven't really, evened out yet. And now thinking about maybe going into another sort of recessionary period, it hasn't gotten better. So we need to do more. There needs to be more done.
Yeah, absolutely. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up for this week?
I guess I'm biased, but I think one thing that companies can do, and maybe even before the recession hits, if you're understaffed, there's a lot of really good freelancers and agencies out there and solopreneurs and people that have chosen this type of work or this way to work as a lifestyle choice. It's not that, we can't do it for a company. This is just the way we want to live. And these could be lifesavers in a pinch because that's what we're all trained to do, right? Step in when permanent staff is not available or not equipped or unknowledgeable about a certain thing that's very specific. So that would be the last thing that I would add. Just think about that. And there's plenty of places to find them.
Yeah, love it. Liz?
I better wrap up my comments. These two are wanting to join the conversation.
There you go. We need it.
He's eating the keyboard.
Eating the keyboard, the mic, everything.
Well, any last thoughts, Liz? Riley has a last thought.
He has lots of last thoughts. No, I mean, I think it's a great conversation. We said we were going to talk about the recession, and we did, obviously. But I think even from the comments, it seems like kindness, a little understanding, that seems to really be resonating with people who are also saying our industry has been through a lot. And so
definitely,
the only way we're going to make it through it is together.
For sure. And
even if you have cash now, bank it. Don't blow it.
Oh, come on. Retail therapy is a thing.
I am all about alliteration.
Whatever. Yeah. So Arthur says, this is one of the realest online combos I've heard on the events industry. So much truth in what you guys are saying. Hey, we're here for you. Wow, dapper too. Look at that fedora. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us this week for Cut the Shit, Cue the Genius. And the geniuses are all you, not us. So thank you again. And we hope to see you next week. Please, please, please go to dahliaplus.com/Cue the Genius and tell us if you want to be a lifeline. You're going to have to compete with Riley, but that's okay. And if you have any topics you want to talk about, as well as that's where you can catch past episodes as well as future episodes. Tell your friends, bring coffee, start day drinking. We won't tell anybody, but join us for next Thursday. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Bye, all.